All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this evening's rendition of our homesteading series here at the West Virginia Department of Ag Business Development Division. Tonight, we are joined by Morehead Marketing and Eric Grandin of Sugarbottom Farms, and they're going to walk us through, give us a nice 101 on marketing your homestead. So I'll introduce them in just a moment. But first, I wanted to just do a quick overview of our division here at the department. First and foremost, we are my team is the planning coordinator team. So my name is Lacey. I cover the green portion of the state that you see there from Mason County down to McDowell. As a planning coordinator, we help folks with navigating some of the regulations, helping folks with business planning or marketing planning or production planning for their markets. So if you're in one of the regions that have a color coding, you can reach out to the respective person you see there on the screen. If you live in one of the counties that are the kind of gray color, you aren't forgotten. We just kind of tag team that region for now, so you can reach out to our business development division directly and they'll connect you with one of us. Also, I wanted to mention our West Virginia Grown program, especially since we're talking about marketing tonight. This is a program that we've just recently revamped, and it's a great marketing program where you can utilize the West Virginia Grown logo on your products to help reinforce to your potential customers that that product was made or grown in West Virginia. So definitely want to check that out. And then lastly, in our division, we have our Veterans and Heroes to Agriculture program with Sierra Cox at the helm of that program now. Definitely reach out to her. Contact information is there on the page if you have any interest in that program. So without further ado, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I'm going to turn it over now to Jeff and Becky of Morehead Marketing. And they're going to tell us a little bit about their business and take us into tonight's conversation. If you guys have questions at any point, you can pop those over into the chat or raise your hand or just pipe up. And I think this will be pretty casual. You can feel free to ask questions as we go along or save them till the end and we'll have a nice conversation then. So Jeff and Becky, take it away.
Thank you, Lacey. Welcome everybody tonight. Wanted to start out telling you just a little bit about Morehead Marketing. We've been in business since 1995, using our skills in marketing, design, and photography to help power up companies and launch great brands. I talk with my hands a lot, so you may see my hands moving a good bit. The services we offer are marketing, logo design, web design, packaging, and literature design, as well as commercial photography. And we use all those skills with our clients to help them create an overall brand to promote their products. So most of what we're going to feature tonight are things that apply to ag businesses that we have worked with. We work with a wide spectrum of companies and different types of products. We work with small companies, we work with large companies. But again, tonight we kind of tailored this a little bit more to ag. We thought that would be fit you better.
We work both in Ohio and West Virginia. We started working a lot in Ohio's Amish country, and we developed a lot of clients up there that turned from what amounted to being small market type businesses that turned into now serving up to 13, 14 states. So some of these businesses have really grown, and we've been starting to work with several businesses that over the years that have been from West Virginia, and we do whatever they need to get a help and the step up as we go along. But there's always the same procedure that we seem to go through. That's kind of a 1, 2, 3 approach to how to define your brand and make the most of your brand so that you can grow and we can grow with you.
So we throw out the term brand a lot, and that's kind of the new buzzword of today where people talk about branding. But what actually is a brand? Well, of course, it's your product. It's also how your product looks, how it performs. It's your reputation. It's what people think about your product. For example, we're all familiar with Nike. And does Nike make a better shoe than a company that sells shoes to Dollar General?
I buy all mine at Dollar General.
Well, they may be better quality, but they may not be. But you perceive Nike having a better product. And because you perceive that, you're willing to pay more for that product. But what would happen to the Nike brand if a report came out that their shoes started falling apart after a week? What would happen to their brand? Well, what you perceive about that brand would change, and what you're willing to pay about for that brand would change. So all these things are tied up into your brand. It's not just your product, but that's where it starts. So how do you make a great brand? So we're going to start by looking at your product. One of the first things you need to do, and especially I think in the ag business, is differentiate yourself from the market. If you're selling ears of corn, you're going to have a lot of farms out there selling ears of corn. How can you make yours different? If it's not different, you're selling a commodity product, which that may be what you want to do. But if you want to try to develop a brand and get more for what your product is, get more money for those things, then you have to look at ways you can differentiate your product to make it, in the minds of people, worth more.
And once you make yourself, your brand, appear to look like it's worth more to others, or differentiate yourself from being based upon lowest price alone, there's oftentimes that people will pay multitudes of, if instead of $1 an ear of corn, it might be $3 an ear of corn, because you have that premium exclusive gourmet corn. I don't know how you do that yet, but that's an example of how just differentiating your brand to be something special or unique from the others can allow you to make a larger profit share out of it.
And you see this easily in ag products. People that put organic on there tend to make more money. Usually it costs more too to make your product to get it certified as organic, but doing organic, doing free range products. An example several years ago was for apples. Everybody was selling apples. We went to a craft show one time and we saw this big line.
I mean, at least 200 people in line.
Oh, it wasn't that long.
200 people in line.
Anyhow, there were a lot of people in the line. And we thought, what in the world are they getting? And they were getting gourmet apples, and it was the same apple everybody's selling for that same price, only they dipped it in chocolate and put it on a stick and asked about 4 times more the costs for it. And people were buying it up. So look for ways to differentiate your product. Another thing too, in today's market, a lot of people are looking for an experience. So perhaps there's a way to tie your product to an experience. So example are the You Pick flower farms. And you might get more money by having people come and experience the farm than you would just selling your flowers. So once you figured out a way to differentiate yourself from the market, all you need is a good product, right?
No. You need to be able to be wise about how you market that product. And sometimes, we've had several times where people will come to us and want us to market a product. And we say, what are you looking to do? And the first thing they say is, we don't have any budget. What can you guys do for us? Well, they've already spent their budget. They've spent all their budget on something else, building the barn to store something in, getting a new tractor. And then they come to market, they absolutely have no way to market it or promote it or to create a brand or to design anything or to print literature to promote it or to build a website. And we run into that more often than not because they didn't talk about it up front.
Right. So that's one thing. Think of those things before you dive in and reserve some money. You may have the best product on the shelf, but if no one knows it, you're not going to sell it. One of the things that you need to look at, you've got your great product, you need to come up with the right name for your business. Does it fit your current product line? Does it fit your future product line? A lot of times people kind of paint themselves into a corner with a name that's too narrow, not broad enough. For example, if I sold strawberries and I call my business Becky's Homegrown Strawberries. So that's great. I got quarts of strawberries I'm selling. That name works great. Well, next year I decide I'm going to make jams and jellies with my strawberries. So my name still fits. So that works. So I'm good. Well, the following year, I'm into blueberries and I want to add blueberry jams, blueberry jellies, all these other products. And my name does not fit. I'm still Becky's Homegrown Strawberries. So be sure before you jump in and create your name, make it broad enough to allow you to grow your business. So do some brainstorming to think about how that, where you might go at some point.
When we first started in 95, we went to a little garage down in a county seat, but not a very big town. They were in Ohio. And there was a little company called Koblenz Distributing. And they had a couple trucks and they were running around the area and selling some meats and some cheeses and items like that, bulk foods. And they said, what do we name ourselves? We don't know that Koblenz Distributing is a very good name because we'd like to start doing some other things. And we have cheeses, we've got meats, we've got cereals, we've got flavorings. So we came back with a name and created Walnut Creek Foods as the overall parent company, with the plan that they were also going to be building a large facility to be both their warehouse and a retail space. We created divisions for cereals, which we called Walnut Creek Mills, and Walnut Creek Meats and Flavorings, and we created that type of a conglomerate underneath of it because they started selling things out in the retail market and started into 3 states, 7 states.
So not only did their name allow for them to grow in all these other areas, but it also, coming out of the gate, they looked like a big company. And they were still this little company in the garage starting out. So I don't know if anybody goes to Amish country, even if you go to your local store now, you'll probably see the Walnut Creek brand on a lot of those products.
Yeah, there's a lot of stores that actually even sell around the area and down into West Virginia that are just Walnut Creek Foods, that they sell most of their stuff as their items.
Right. So a lot of people think that they manufacture a lot of items too, but they're not. They're a distributor, so they repack and sell. Another thing you need to remember when you're doing your name is, and we help clients with this because there's a lot of things to think about when you're doing this. So this is one of the things we do with our clients is help them come up with names. But you also have to have your name fit the market you're selling. So I'll let you tell this story.
Well, we got a call from a recommendation from a large client to talk to a lady who wanted to sell gourmet spices. And when she started, the plan was this. Her and her husband had an uncle whose nickname was Stinky. And they had their mother whose name was Tootsie. So they wanted to literally call this Stinky Tootsies. I'm taking this over a phone call, fortunately, because I would have laughed. I'm thinking a gourmet item named Stinky Tootsies, and they wanted to have a skunk
waving on as part of the logo.
So that might have worked for redneck spices, but not gourmet spices. So we definitely steered them away from going that route because we think they would have thrown a lot of money
down the Stinky Tootsie hole. Anyway, so once you have your name, you need to have a logo. And a logo is kind of like a handshake. You make an immediate impression. Your product makes an immediate impression to whoever's looking at it, just like when you're meeting someone for the first time. So you want to be sure you have a good impression a look that they can remember, a look that makes sense with your product, a look that makes your product look good.
It also has to be readable, and that's at any size, whether it's on a billboard, a business card, even a pen or a small, whatever. We've seen some things that are really tiny,
Right.
less than 1/4 of an inch. And even like on a website, sometimes up in the URL where you type in the address, there's even a favicon that's so small it has to be readable.
So you need to be sure it's readable. You need to be consistent. And this is one thing we're after our clients about all the time. No matter where you put that logo should look the same. Once you start taking it apart and putting it in different ways, you lose that consistency of your look, and it impacts your brand. It makes it harder for people to remember your brand. So you need it to be consistent. You need it to be readable. You need it to be built correctly. Don't let your sign guy or your cousin Bobby create your logo. There's a lot that goes into the thinking of how it's made, to how it's going to work, to does it represent you and your company? Is it built correctly? We all the time get logos. Client says, oh, I've already got a logo. Here it is.
Yeah, the sign guy put it together, and we put it on trucks. And the first thing we look at is, what's the name? It's not readable. We've had a couple that we even questioned what the name of their company was because we couldn't read it on a standard business card. So it has to have that look, and also has to have the right feel of the company. We once was working with a candy company, and they had their original boxes so that there was 2 little children and an old lady and a big oven. And they thought that was cute. And the first thing 2 of us said at that point was, it looks like Hansel and Gretel, and they're about to get thrown in the oven by the old witch. And they looked at that and they said, oh my, I never saw that before in my life. So it's always good to get some professional outside opinions rather than just yourself and your immediate family or the people who work for you, because other people will see different things in what you're trying to come up with.
Right. We've created over 343 logos.
Nobody's counting.
Yeah, nobody's counting. Anyway, we're going to try doing a screen share here just to show you a few logos, some of which you might recognize. When we design logos, click on it. There we go. Okay. When we design logos, our goal is to design a logo that fits your company and fits your product. As you'll see when you go through some of these, that it's distracting when you do that. As you go through some of these, they all look different. They're different styles. Hopefully okay. You're seeing these different
we
screens.
See it.
Okay,
we
good.
See it now. Yes.
Yeah.
We lost you for a second, but we see the Yankee Workshop, etc. So.
Okay. All right. Some of them are just Wordmarks. Most of them have some sort of image that goes with it. Like I said, it totally depends on the client and what we're wanting to accomplish with that client.
So can you say that again, Becky? Wordmarks, is that the description for a logo that's your name in a certain font?
Yes.
And not necessarily like an image, but using your name as the logo?
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're on the third set of them.
So now you've got your name. Now you've got your logo. As having products to sell, a lot of you will be looking at packaging. And again, packaging needs to be consistent with that same look. You're going to carry it on through everything that you do. Packaging can help you stand out from the crowd and reinforce your brand. And it doesn't always have to cost you more. A lot of people come to us and say, oh, I can't afford you guys I can't afford to do that. And we'll find people that are using buying generic white labels, printing them on their own little machine, and we'll work out a way with them that they can get colored ones that they just put the specific information on, looks so much better, and it really doesn't cost them much more at all, and it could take them a lot less time to do things. So just kind of thinking through your process and how your labeling works and how your product packaging works can sometimes save you tons of time and save you tons of money. I'm not sure what you're doing on our screen. So
it should be seeing Grandma's Homestead.
Yep, we've got it.
Good, cool. So we're going to show you a few.
And you got to forgive us. We're having technical difficulties with something beyond all of our
right. And we can't see we click it, but we can't see that come up on the screen. So hopefully this one is Cedar Run Farm.
Yep, maple syrup. We see it.
Yeah, now that's a West Virginia company. Some of you might be familiar with Cedar Run Farm. In their case, we looked at their bottles. They use a combination of tags and labels on their products. Go ahead with the next one whenever you're ready.
I'm trying.
Okay. Hannah bugs. Right here. Nope.
It just moved.
Okay. We apologize. There we go. Okay. Hannah Bugs Chocolate is one that was using a company that was using white labels and printing their own and spending a lot of time printing their own. And we worked on creating a label that could be pre-printed in color that would work on pretty much all their products.
And it also was less expensive to pre-print in color and plan so that it fit on all of their products for less than they were buying blank labels. Not to mention the time to print them and then apply them.
And then not to mention the difference in how it looked.
And then they had to imprint everything again, too, to get the different products in it.
Right.
Okay. Now, where am I going here? What else? And that is Winery that's also showing packaging, so that you need to be consistent across the board and to create something that stands out and is unique, because people, when they see that look, they'll remember your bottle compared to anybody else's, or your jar or your box on the shelf, and that memory of seeing that visual will always stand out more than things that all look alike. And then in some industries, people use the same jar or can or shapes of items. So when that happens, that's a good reason why, even if you are stuck with the same jars as your competitors, you need to have a different label that really stands out.
Okay, so go with that one. Okay, here's a client that we work with, and they should be on this call. So this is Sugarbottom Farm, and this is Eric Grandin from Sugarbottom Farm. And we'll let Eric get on and tell you a little bit about his experience when we first started working with Eric and his family. We met him at a craft show down in Charleston, and they were struggling with a lot of different bottles, a lot of variety, and a lot of tags and a lot of handwork to put together their product. So Eric, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you want to?
This is. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'll just let you talk.
Oh, okay. This is Eric. I'm the owner-operator of Sugarbottom Farm. And like Becky said, we met at a craft show back in 2019. And this is something I'll never forget. Basically, they came around and was just viewing different booths and everything like that. And at the time, we were running about 7 to 9 different sizes of honey jars. And it basically was the same as everybody else. But I remember Becky mentioned the NASCAR jar of honey from all the labeling I had on our honey jars. And, it kind of made sense after I seen what she was talking about. But that was the first time we had met. And, they basically asked me, are you ready to take it to the next level? And that just grabbed me. And, from there, I was just, I was excited to find out what at least they could do for me. And instead of, them saying, well, meet me in my office at 2 o'clock on Tuesday, they actually came to my farm to see the operation and to see what we did and how we did it and this and that, basically to give them ideas. Now, if anybody knew us prior to 2019, they would recognize our logo from before that I had made up. It was a red, white, and blue beehive. And basically, I'm a veteran, so the red, white, and blue, of course, and the beehive with the bees and blah, blah, blah. But the the very first thing they mentioned when they came to my farm is how attached are you to that logo? And I was like, oh my gosh, the logo that I'd spent so much time creating, they wanted to change. And I said, well, basically, you're the professionals. You take it and run with it, and we'll see where we come out. And basically, that's where the new logo came in, the Sugarbottom Farm. Very, very elegant yet simple, and it goes perfectly with our. We decided on one jar, and that is the Moose jar, which is a remake of the original honey jar developed in the 1870s by the same gentleman who invented the extractor. So we have that jar, and our other jar we use is a Hermes jar, which I call Grandma's old flip top. So we basically have an old-fashioned type setup with our honey jars. But what really grabbed me was this label that you see displayed. Now, if you could see the entire bottle, it would be a three-sided label. On the side on the left, if you turned it to the right or to the left, would be a description of our honey.
Okay.
She go grab one.
Are you able to see us?
Yes, that's the front of our honey label. And if you turn it to the left,
Hold it up just a little bit higher in the camera. There you go.
And turn it to the left, Becky.
Which is your left? This one?
Your left.
Okay.
There. That's our nutritional label and our barcode, because we have goals to be in grocery stores sooner than later. So they decided we should go ahead and put barcodes on all of our labels to have it already in place, and we're ready. And if you go ahead and turn it once again, that is a description of our honey. It's the best of West Virginia is what I call it. And it gives a brief description. It also shows all my certifications are homegrown by heroes, homegrown by heroes, West Virginia grown, and the Veterans to Agriculture. So, when I seen that logo and that label, I was like, oh my God, this is a home run. And now we're all over the state. We sell in a DC farmers market, and we're in Ohio, West Virginia. But one thing that I wanted to mention was they're a one-stop shop. So I needed everything. We had to change everything that we had. And now I have business cards. I have tablecloth. I have banners, everything. Everything we have is now the new Sugarbottom Farm look. And that logo is a very recognizable logo. Once you see it, you never forget it. This is the front page of our website, and they hit a home run on the website. I was told just this evening by the second largest honey company in the state that we had the nicest website that they'd ever seen. And basically through their photography and everything. I mean, look at that. That's absolutely beautiful. And that makes you want to stop and shop. And they've set it up as a e-commerce store. So basically the customer goes in and they shop and they buy. They automatically receive the cost of their shipping. All that's done right at the very instant that they pay. and we get the order and then we ship it out. And we're all over the country. But, you know, the very worst thing you can think about when thinking about advertising and marketing is you want to be the marketeer. That's not the way it works. When they came aboard, I basically said, you got the ball. You let me know what I need to do. I gave them free range to do anything and take my logo. But
We don't
I
we
mean,
don't
we have
always
hit a
get
home
that for
run.
clients. So that was they
Well,
gave us
that's
the
why I
freedom
wanted to
to
mention
really
it.
create for them. So that's the kind of clients we really like to have that let us do our job.
But that's exactly right. They are the professionals. They know what they're doing. I mean, you see some of the companies that they've worked with, and you know they know what they're doing. So you gotta let them go and recommend. They will never force anything upon you, but you can tell when they want to kind of lean toward their way a little bit, just a nudge. But they've been the best thing for our company ever. We have basically quadrupled in size since we brought on the new branding. We're in very high end markets, um, and we have set ourselves apart from the other honey companies in our packaging. Same honey, but for some odd reason, ours just tastes better than everybody else's, and that's what we hear time and time again. And they love our packaging. Packaging. It's so important to your products. You know, if it doesn't look like it, you know, anything to buy, they're not going to buy it. But if they see something that they've never seen before and then try it, and you know, that's where you get your customers from. I mean, it's been a win-win for me and our farm. And yeah, I don't know where we'd be without them. And they continue to do for us. We've kept them on for now 2 years. I think they'll live and die with us because you know, every recommendation they give me works out. Not only have they marketed our company, but they've secured us multiple markets. Um,
And worked your
and
booth when needed.
Yeah, and worked our booth at the
Yeah.
the West Virginia Mountaineer State Arts and Craft Fair. Worked our booth with us. So that's just the kind of people they are. They give you 150%, and you know, you don't get that anymore. And I'm telling you, if you want to take it to the next level, this is where you got to go. You know, we all think we're all in one, we can do anything, and that's usually true to a sense, but they know where to go and what you need to take it up that next step.
Thank you, Eric. One other thing I want to add too, that when we work with clients, we also try to help you work smarter. One of the things that we're constantly, and Eric can tell you this too, is okay, define your packaging, define what sizes, don't offer everything, try to offer everything to everybody. Have a manageable inventory of products and sizes, and ones that make sense, and ones where your label's going to fit, where you can print one label that goes on everything rather than have to get 10 labels printed. So a lot of thinking goes into your packaging to help make it easier for you and help make it so it doesn't cost as much for you.
We've sold our own scenic prints at fairs and festivals around the region, and in large areas and small areas. And we know one of the things that we used to see was people would have photo prints and they would have them all different sizes, all creations, it was chaos. We decided to offer two sizes, a large and a small. We've now done the Henry Ford thing and said we're only selling large now.
Yeah.
It's what Eric's talking about. If you got 38 different products and packaging
and inventory,
and in this new modern lack of being able to get packaging, supply chain shortages, you don't want to have to try and figure out how to package labels on 15 different products just because it's a different size. Simplify, minimize, and make it maximum effect so that you spend minimal time working on your product, and because your talent is either growing or producing product. It's not necessarily canning and constantly putting labels on things and trying to buy that fourth or fifth type of jar.
Okay, you want to have the screen up? So we've talked a little bit
One thing I
about.
wanted to mention, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
One thing I wanted to mention was that that signature honey drop that you all designed with our label. And we basically have this honey drop on all of our anything we produce. Basically, it is part of our logo. Can you show them that, Becky, on the
Sure.
honey jar?
We'll show them this one.
But it's on our banners. It's on everything, and that again kind of separates us from everybody else. And that's what you want to be. You want to be separate and and exclusive. That's what customers are looking for, and they're also looking for that story. They're very interested that's the the remake of the original honey jar. They love that, and that's what they're looking for. They're not looking for the plastic bear that's on everybody else's table. They're looking for something unique and exciting, and and that's what you want to shoot for.
And it tastes better.
And it tastes better.
Okay.
Okay, so you've got your logo, your name, your packaging. What else goes in creating your brand? You've got to get the word out there about it. And I run into people a lot that think that just like the movie, what's the movie with Kevin Costner? If you
if you build it, they will come.
What's the name of the movie?
Field of Dreams.
Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. A lot of people think if I build a website and I open it today, tomorrow I'm going to be filled with orders. And that's not necessarily what happens. It's you got to think of a website kind of like building a physical store out in the middle of nowhere. And
how do you get people to it?
How do you get people to know it's there? It's the same thing with the website. People have got to be able to find you. So just putting up a website and opening up a store on the internet does not guarantee you a lot of business. So that's just the start, and then you've got to work on getting people to that. There's lots of different ways, lots of different promotions.
And some people tend to think that if they go on social media and they spend a lot of money on Facebook ads, that type of thing, or even Google ads, then they'll get people to their website. That doesn't necessarily work. It may get a lot of shares to the wrong market or to the people that you don't necessarily really want to target. But you need to do a combination of different things, with search engine optimization being one of the key ones. That gets people, so that keywords say John Smith's Farm, West Virginia. You don't want to just say, if you're selling corn, you don't want to look at a keyword called corn, because now you're competing against everybody in the country. So you want to target in on somewhere in Ovapa, West Virginia, to get people to your specific area and to your site or to your product.
There's a lot of different ways that you can do that. Depending on what your product is, that helps determine the right mix of promotions that you need to help create the interest and get the word out about the product. One comment I'd like to also add, a lot of people think that social media is free. And they say, oh, well, I can get a Facebook page. That doesn't cost me anything. I can promote my products on there and it's totally free. Well, you may not be paying anything for that, but your time is worth something. And I don't know how many of you, I wish I could see hands, but I don't think I can. But anyway, I'm guessing that a lot of you probably work another job in addition to whatever your ag product is. And would you work for free for that other job? And you probably wouldn't. So why work for free for your ag job? Your time is worth things. Your time is worth money. And I'm sure that most of you would rather be out on your farm rather than sitting in front of your computer on a Facebook page. So you need to keep in your mind that social media is not free. Your time is not free. Your time and the time you spend on it should be part of the cost of your product. And working to get that unique product where you can get a higher price point so that you can pay for your time is your goal. Let's pull up the other slides here. So to be successful in launching a great brand, you have to look beyond your product. We're just going to show you a few, go up. Yeah, we're going to show you a few companies where you can see a lot of different materials that support that brand. This one's Grandma's Homestead. We did packaging. They had restaurant. They had 3 restaurants. They had a bed and breakfast. They sold food products. They almost got on the Food Network. They were runner-up for a show for the Food Network. So this kind of shows you their packaging and their look. And you can see that, again, it's a consistent look across all those different restaurants, all those different types of products or promotional materials. What else we got? Cedar Run Farm. And I don't have the screen in front of me, but of course, packaging is a big one for them. We didn't show the other website screenshots either, but we could come back to that. Cedar Run Farm, we have a website. You can order from their website. They have a brochure they hand out. It's their packaging. It's your business cards. It's ads that you do. Everything reinforces your brand, and it looks consistent. And being consistent is probably one of the hardest things we have to drill into our customers to keep it all consistent. Here's one company that's not an ag business. It's a cabinet manufacturer up in Amish country, but this kind of gives you, again, the look and the consistency of a brand. And it also kind of shows you some of the different, most all these things that you're seeing too, we do photography. We do commercial photography.
And one thing with photography that you have to do is make sure your product shines to the best of its ability, because you have a cell phone with a camera or the ability to stick it on social media doesn't necessarily mean your product's being shown the best way. Too often we see smaller businesses try to use a cell phone or even a camera, and they go out in the field and they prop up and pose some of their products with something and often have too much clutter around it. Just simplify, feature the product, and in this case for Schrock's, most of their products speak for themselves because it shows high-end cabinetry.
I want to go back to why is it not opening? There we go. Click on this one again. Okay, here's an example with Sugarbottom Farm. And there's nothing in the background. The total focus is the product and the consistency of the product. And this makes a great photo to use in a website because it goes all the way across the header. So a lot of times when we're taking photos, we have to think about where they're going to go, where they're going to fit. With Sugarbottom Farm, not only do we do product shots, but we also pull up the one at the table too, which I think they've seen too, but I want to highlight it. This one. This one too is one we used on their website, and it's just a cool photo, and it shows honey, but it just kind of gives you a warm feel, makes you want to go into the website to look more. So a lot of times the photos is not just the product and the packaging, although you need that, but you need kind of a mix of photos to show what you do.
And Becky won an international food photography contest with that one. But nobody's counting that either.
Okay, now have we gone through all those? Oh, I wanted to show them. We talked a little bit about websites. Yeah, go back up here. Whoop, that one. Okay. This is Cedar Run Farms website. We created what we called a yum photo with the pancakes up there, making you want to, you can just kind of smell the maple syrup hitting those pancakes. So sometimes you want photos that have an emotional appeal. Sometimes you just want to show, this is this shows the shopping cart. So then they would scroll down to get the rest of their products.
And you have to make sure product shots are clear and show the actual item well, because if not, sometimes there's confusion. Is that the large size, the small size? It's blurry. It's hard to tell sometimes when people shoot out in the field or in the yard with their own photos whether what exactly you're looking at or featuring.
Yeah. So kind of just as a wrap up before we get to any questions you might have. You want a unique product. You want a memorable name. You want an easily recognizable logo. You want eye-catching packaging that will help you stand out. And you want to spark people's interest to try your product. So you need to, and once you get people to try your product, you know, all of this stuff will help to get them to try it, but it's going to take a great product to bring them back, to keep them buying time after time. So at this point, I think we're open to any questions anybody might have. I don't know if we can see if we can figure out how to open the chat again.
I think Lacey gets that.
Okay.
Right. Lacey, are you able to, are there any questions?
Yeah, I'm kind of monitoring the chat. I'm going to click over here. And so far we have a comment from Abigail that says, those bottles are beautiful. She was referring to the honey.
Okay.
They are definitely eye-catching, she says.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I have some questions that I've jotted down, and I'm sure others will want to pipe in too, but I'll go ahead and get us kicked off on this Q&A.
Okay.
So the first one I have is kind of looking at someone who is, you know, just getting started. You know, maybe this is their first year that they've decided that they're going to take anything to a market, a farmer's market, you know, a fair, festival, etc. And, you know, they're kind of stuck between that chicken and the egg stage. You know, no one wants to oversell and then underdeliver. So what advice do you have for someone who's just getting started, and how they can strike a nice balance of, you know, promoting their products, but not so much so that there's, you know, an enormous amount of interest and then they don't have enough product to sell? You know what I mean? And any advice for someone who's in that boat of getting started? What are some maybe, you know, top 3 things that they should be thinking about or doing in the beginning stages?
When it's taking your product to the market, again, we talked about try to minimize how many choices you have, because the more choices you have, the more inventory you have to manage.
You know, one time we worked with a restaurant, and one of the things we did was we looked at their menu, and they had hundreds of items, and sometimes there was repetition. There was things that were the features, and some were this and some were that, and we kept questioning. And we spent a long time. They even questioned, why are you spending so much time on that menu? What it ended up being was, instead of lines outside of their restaurant, they told us they were turning tables 3 times faster, and they don't have lines in their restaurant now. They learned that people were spending way too much time trying to decide what's on the menu and what do I want, when some of it even repeated itself. So if you have too many products coming out of the gate, people spend a lot of time trying to figure out what it is you're trying to sell and what the game plan is. So even if you just sell 1 or 2 things, it's simplified and easier for you to manage and promote too.
Well, I think that's awesome advice. I remember the first time I went to a market, you know, and we started just as a homestead, and didn't know what we wanted to sell off of our farm. And I think that's, you know, probably where a lot of people start. You know, it's like, I don't know if I want to sell eggs or I want to sell honey, but I'm going to try it all. So I think that's good advice, to maybe pick 1 or 2 and roll with those, and then add if and when it makes sense too, I guess.
And then I would also suggest, if you're planning to sell at the farmer's market, go to the farmer's market. Go to different farmer's markets. Look and see what people are doing. Look and see who's successful, who's not. Look at seeing what kind of products are out there and how you can, again, come into the market with something different.
And you'll also find yourself looking at other people's booths, even if they're not in your competition level. You'll see that, wonder why they're selling it that way. I wonder why. I don't understand their product line. So start thinking that way in your own terms. Would I make sense if I took these 5 items to market? And am I creating any confusion that people were going to spend time trying to figure out what I'm talking about? So you have to look at it from outside the box too.
Right. And then too, if you're taking vegetables out of your garden to sell or vegetables off of your farm to sell, and you have trouble figuring out how to differentiate, make your booth look better, make your presentation look better, and start there with looking better than the other booths.
Yeah, that's also a good piece of advice. I was at the Small Farms Conference a couple of years ago, and the keynote speaker said she was a flower farmer and she would roll out of her farm, you know, where she was picking flowers and set up the farmer's market booth in a hurry, and she looked, you know, disheveled. And then one day she decided to put on her Sunday best and go to the farmer's market and sold out in comparison just by changing her appearance. So I think that's great advice. And it doesn't, you know, I think I just want to reiterate the point that you guys have shown us a lot of really fantastic, sophisticated marketing with labels and websites and postcards. And it doesn't have to be all that in the very beginning. It can be simple things like you've suggested, just make your booth look nice and look presentable and streamline and be consistent with whatever it is that you're saying. So I love those points, and I just wanted to kind of reinforce those.
And when you go to a
Miss
small
Lacey.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Eric?
I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to say that's exactly where we started from the very beginning. It was just the labels. And then, you know, all of the recommendations that they made. And that's how we were able to do this, was going little by little by little. And now we have basically everything. But it's taken 2 years to get there. And you know, it's not just a one-stop shop where you just, you know, order everything and then you're done. Like I said, they'll be with us forever as far as I'm concerned. They're family now. So I mean, who else would work your booth? But anyway, that's where we started, was just the logo and the labeling. And then we grew from that with the different you know, the website and then the postcards and stuff like that. It's all needed along the way as you grow, but you don't need all that up front. So, you know, just so you don't scare somebody away with thinking you have to go in for the whole package right off the bat. You know, they're great to work with. Just like I said, give them an opportunity. It'd be the best decision you ever make for your business.
Yes, and I'm so glad that you shared that, Eric, because I think that a lot of folks that I work with on a regular basis have fear of launching because they think they have to have all the pieces together of the puzzle together before they do. And what you just shared, you know, reinforces the point that you don't. You know, it's a stepping stone, and you can add those elements as they're necessary. So great advice. I'm going to turn my video back on so there's a little bit more of a dialogue. I know it's hard to talk without, you know, nodding heads, looking back at you. So
we've been operating blind over here, so
we didn't see ourselves.
Oh no. Well, my next question was also it's kind of looking at both you guys and Eric to comment on this, and Eric kind of already touched on it when he was speaking earlier. But one, if Jeff and Becky, you guys can give us like a, you know, 1 or 2 sentence, why should someone make sure that marketing is in their annual budget? You know, it's often the last thing that we think about. You know, we buy the seeds and we, you know, work in the field and we put gas in the truck and we sign up for the farmer's market. We get the permits, but we never think about, you know, the all important factor of telling people what we have and where they can find it. So tell us, why should we do that?
Yeah, I think you just said it, because it's telling people what you have and where you can find it, because otherwise they may not know. And again, if your product, you may have the best tasting jelly and of all the jellies on the shelf, but they're not going to know that unless they try it first. So you've got to get them to take that first step. You've got to have something about, you know, that's over the other ones. either your selling ability, if you're selling at if you're fortunate enough to be selling it yourself, because a lot of times if you're at a fleet or a farmer's market or whatever, you have that ability to tell them how great your product is. When you're doing something like Eric's doing, like when he puts his products in stores, you don't even have that. You only have how it looks. So you've got to have a way to communicate to people why they should try your product and where they can find it.
And I'm sure each of you have gone out and looked at a product on a shelf and you thought, that's really ugly. Why would I ever want that? Have any of you ever wondered if that's your own product? You have to think that way, because that's the kind of thinking that we have to do. When we look for a possible client, we look on shelves, and if they look very slick and polished, they've already got help. We're looking for the people that might have a great product that doesn't necessarily have all the polish on it, and they may be at a better price point. They may not understand that a better packaging presentation of their item ends up making them sell twice as much as that guy that looks better sitting beside them, because their product may be the best one on the shelf. Nobody's trying it.
Right.
Eric, I think they just called you a diamond in the rough.
Well, I'm definitely in the rough. But
you're
one thing I wanted to
now.
mention, with something like this marketing team, it works 24/7, and you're not doing it. It's doing the work for itself. Where you can spend time on the farm doing what you need to do. The advertising is working itself. When you have everything in place, the brand is working, towards new customers. The website is working for customers you'd never had to begin with. And this is all done and you don't have to do it. That's the great thing about this. All that part, that's just one little section of the farm. It has to be done, though. I mean, you can continue where you're at and stay that way the rest of your business life, or you can try to take that step and say, I want to do more than this. And with that, that's where this team comes into play.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's part of the transition of working on your business rather than in your business. And we're all moving in that direction. Well, Eric, just to follow up to that, and you touched on this before, but if you can just reiterate this point for folks, what would you estimate your ROI, your return on investment, and finally saying, yeah, I need to spend some dollars on marketing and quit trying to do this myself? What would you say if you had to put a figure on your return on investment for focusing on some marketing? What would that look like?
Really weird, because that show that we were at was our very first attempt to selling honey, and so basically I owe it all to them with the honey sales. We continue to sell bees and equipment and all that stuff, but the honey itself, I would say 200% easily.
Wow, that's great. Well, are there any other questions? I could keep I could keep firing away, but I'll see if anybody else wants to chime in before I ask. And I'm going to go over here to the chat and just make sure I'm not missing anything.
When I first walked up to Eric's wife, I asked, what's Hawaiian honey, and why do I want to buy Hawaiian honey? And after she answered all that very intelligently, because Eric trained her real well, because when we ended up meeting Eric, it was the same pitch. So she knew it inside and out. He knew it inside and out. The main thing was polishing everything up and making it all more streamlined. But they had a great product to start with, because we bought it at the show, and we're still using it to this day, mostly in ones that don't have packaging on them right now. We still have some of those, but anyway.
That's great. Angela Bourne has her hand up. Angela, do you have a question? You want to turn your mic on, camera on if you want? or type in the chat if you can't get the audio feature to work.
She may be having as much trouble as us.
Or she may have raised the hand button, not knowing what it was, which we did at one point. So.
Okay, well, we'll see if she can get her her audio working, or maybe she didn't necessarily have a question. But I had another one, and you already corrected me on this because I was going to ask before you said some of these free marketing resources aren't necessarily free. But my question prior to you saying that, so I'm going to go ahead and ask it because maybe other people are thinking it, is what are some of the best, and maybe free is the wrong word, but free marketing tools for startups? So what are some of the lower cost or easy entry forms of marketing? I'm looking at, social media, websites, maybe like Canva, where you can do some of your own design work, or, other things that you guys might know about that folks could, we'll say low budget, someone who's bootstrapping this getting started could turn to.
Go ahead.
I think that going back to, like we gave an example of Hannah bugs, when people are buying labels and doing so much of their own manual work that they have to print and figure out how to find a label that fits a printer and how to get the printer to fit on there, and whether they can get their Nutrifacts squeezed onto the label so that it's even readable without rubbing off or something like that, then you're starting to find that labels and how to best streamline labels, I guess, because sometimes one label being printed can end up being the one label that fits and handles all of your packages. And if that's the case, you don't have to go out and buy a bunch of labels. You just have to produce one professionally, and it may handle every product no matter what size. It just has to be well thought as you go into it. And sometimes that professional printed label can be less costly than the blanks that you're buying off the internet, because that's literally what we ran into.
Right. And, I said social media isn't free, but a lot of times you don't have any money. And I've done this before too. You spend your time doing as much as you can. And again, you don't add up all those hours you're putting in there. You just know that you don't have to take it. You don't have to have the money in your pocket to do it. So if you're good at social media, you like social media, depending on your product, social media can be a really good tool for you. But just keep in mind, again, your time is valuable and how much time you want to spend. And a lot of times there's people that are really good, and doing social media is very easy for them. And then there's people that really struggle with it. So those people that struggle with it are probably going to take a lot more time, and it's probably not going to be as successful.
We know of two different farm kind of setups. That one of them is a boutique type operation, a one-person operation, and she will end up saying, today we have 20 sets of this available, whatever it might be, whether it's a bouquet of flowers or
cookies,
or we've got turnips today.
Yeah.
And literally her husband is always amazed that how in the world can you sell that much stuff in 3 hours? I just tell them we have a limited amount. They got to get here, and I'm not fooling around. Here's your time. This is the cost. Pick them up while they're here.
But she posts on social media a lot.
All the time.
And she has a lot of followers, and that's her main mode of promotion. Like Jeff said, she's a one-person shop, and she can only do so much. So she just does it like that. And she's also, she doesn't necessarily always offer a consistent product. She'll have different things that she has. So it works out that she just posts it and sells it and then moves on.
And we also are working with somebody who has a couple dozen farm markets around a couple states. And they've told us that their social media posts will do some strange things. They'll maybe have a product that's not moving. And if they promote it, the people who are following them, all of a sudden there's a demand and a rush on those products, and they may sell out in a day or two. And over the last month, nothing's moved. So you may try that. It may be the right fit for you, what your product is. Okay, we've lost
Yes,
sound
we
somewhere.
have lost Sam. Hit the microphone again.
We've lost Lacey.
Nope.
Okay.
There we
Yep.
go.
Can you guys hear me?
There
Yes.
you are.
Okay.
Did you
Sorry
hear
about that.
us? We were
I
just
did.
talking to
Yep.
ourselves.
No, we heard you loud and clear. I think
Okay, good.
I had myself muted. I was mentioning, so Abigail, there are a couple of good comments coming in. Abigail says to make partnerships, think about breweries, pop-up shops, art walk, thinking outside of just the farmers markets, which is really great advice. Angela says that she had personally used Facebook a lot for her advertising for Pick Your Own Strawberries. She said something has changed recently. Her reach didn't go out as normal. I think a lot of people are realizing that the Facebook algorithms have a mind of their own.
You never know what they're gonna. We always say that using Facebook, it's sometimes you walk in and it's like trying to get in your car and the steering wheel's in the trunk. They move things around. They move the buttons. What you used yesterday, you come in today and it's not there. So sometimes that could be frustrating.
You know, we rarely use Facebook anymore for advertising altogether since Jeff and Becky came aboard. But every once in a while we'll throw something out there. But you're right, it just doesn't get the return like it used to. And I don't know what's happened, but we're happy with what we have now, and really don't need the Facebook advertising at all.
I'm seeing a question. How much should a business budget for marketing?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it depends on who you ask.
10%.
I've been around 27 years with our own business, and I've always seen a consistent thing coming out of accountants. No budget for marketing. Accountants seem to have a 0.5% as a standard kind of a budget for marketing, which doesn't amount to a lot in some small businesses. And I know businesses that literally turned over $6 to $8 million when they were spending way more than that on their marketing, because they were. And they said accountants kept telling them, we need to cut down, we need to cut out. And it wasn't that they were spending with us, but they advertised in magazines and things like that. And that's where their budget was being spent. But because they were spending, they had that kind of volume coming. So listening to accountants, not the first person. The easiest thing to do is probably to look, what are you trying to do and how much money can you afford to put into marketing? And then talk to somebody in marketing to find out what should we be doing, and then see if you can afford that. And if the plan, make a plan up front. Don't just say, here's a budget. Let the people who do marketing work with you to develop a budget.
And we work, like I said, with companies that are very small starting out. We work with large corporations. So we kind of adjust to work with the client. So, and we try to, whenever we do any work, everything that we do is estimated up front. So if we say we're going to do a logo for you, we talk to you about the size of your company, what you're doing. We say, for this amount of money, this is what you're going to get. And so that there's no surprises in that.
Yeah.
We also try to work with people and saying, okay, to get started, you're going to probably need to have this, this, and this. And like we've done with Eric and Sugarbottom Farm, you build on what you have. You got to have a good foundation, then you keep adding and adding to it, and then you're able to do more and more with what you've got. But like, just for instance, with photographs, if we were taking photographs, we try to create a portfolio of photographs that they can use, whether you're going to do a website, or whether you're doing an ad, or whether you're posting on Facebook or wherever. These are very versatile photos that you could use a lot of places. So we try to put a lot of thought into because we work with a lot of small. We like working with a lot of small we love artisans, and we love, so we work with a lot of small people, and we try to make it work for them.
Yeah, we get more bang for the buck out of things. And sometimes, depending on what it is, we'll see that, oh, that's kind of squeezing it, but we kind of make sure that it works anyway. So even if your budget's tight, we may see ways that aren't always often available or easily seen to get things done.
Yeah, I just wanted
Okay.
to mention again, just how easy these two are to work with. They are very flexible, and they'll bend over backwards to help you out. And they've done that for me. And I just see this as a repetitive thing that they do for their customers or their clients. And that just goes a long way in itself. The trust you can build between you and your advertiser, the people that you have your business hands in, or in their hands. And it's amazing. It's a relationship that you have to build. You have to build the trust. They know what they're doing. I've learned that over and over and over again. So we just let them do what they can do.
I see a question. Do we work with the West Virginia Tourism Portal? No. And I'm not sure exactly what that is.
I'm not sure what that is.
Well, maybe it looks like Angela's typing some more.
Okay.
The last question that I had while she's typing, and maybe going to educate us a little bit on another fun resource, is so you mentioned, you showed us some labeling. You talked about packaging, jars, labels, things of that nature. Do you guys have relationships with manufacturers of labels, manufacturers of packaging, so that that removes some of the burden of trying to source these things and ensure that the label, the final design is FDA compliant or meets the regulatory check boxes that it needs to? Is that something you guys go beyond just what's on the package or what's on the label, but help people source as well? Okay.
It doesn't get on the package unless it meets FDA requirements. When we started working with Koblentz Distributing and developed them into Walnut Creek Foods, one of the first things we started running into was, not at that time, being 95, we were looking at, the government didn't have a real stringent way of doing things then. And they kind of allowed labels to be, the type font had to be a certain percentage of the size of the label, and they were not very flexible to it, and there were some weird things that would happen. So we had to design around things to make very small labels work, because some people's packaging, the labels are so small. How do you get a UPC code on there? And how do you get Nutrifax to be a certain type size if your label's only so big? The government's more flexible now than it used to be, and yes, we stay on top of that type thing so that we know how to make things work for whatever size package you got, and we know what the requirements are for the UPC-A barcodes, and we even have, our granddaughter even has a UPC tester in her little Piggly Wiggly store up here that's a real one, because that's what we test with. So we work it any way we can. But we fear the government, because the worst thing you can do is pay for a label and find out if it's not being able to go to Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, or DC and being scanned. It's a waste of time putting it on the package, because they're not gonna waste their time with your product. That's just a good way of getting out there. If you're compliant everywhere, then you can sell anywhere.
That is great.
Yeah, I was going to mention. We just recently we submitted labels for the West Virginia Department of Agriculture approval, and Jeff took care of all that for me. He worked with you all to make sure that everything was good to go, and that way, it's once it's checked off, that's just one thing less we have to worry about. We know we're safe to sell anywhere.
Excellent. That's great to know. Very good. Well, the last comment Angela said over here, and I asked her to maybe share a link with us. She'd mentioned there's like a co-purchasing or maybe a reimbursement program that the tourism division offers. So if we get a link to that, it'll be in the chat as a follow-up to this meeting.
Right.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, I figured out how to mute me. So the tourism department has hi. Well, my name's Angela. Thank you for this call. It's been wonderful.
Hi, Angela.
Hi. The tourism office is offering a orientation, I think, this coming Thursday on how to use the portal and purchase advertising. So I guess what I was trying to figure out is, would you create the advertising and then I would bring it over to the portal and share it with their marketing team? But it sounds like you haven't done that with anyone before.
We have not. I have to look into that. If you want to send us your contact information, we can look at that. I'm not sure whether they just purchase media for you or include in what advertising the tourism department is doing, and whether you have to provide your ad or whatever. I'm not sure, but we could check into that.
On another note,
they have different ads. Like you can purchase Facebook ads, you can purchase billboards, you can purchase, magazine ads.
yeah.
And I'm not sure how they decide that, but they've chosen what they're going to have, and then you pay for it. And then they'll match it.
Years ago, not so much in agriculture, but I watched convention and tourist bureaus. They will sometimes a person will buy something in one state and the other state matches that. I've watched West Virginia and Ohio play games back and forth across the state line so that whatever got matched in West Virginia, Ohio matched it again. So I don't know that game so much, but at least it used to work that way, and I've seen it happen, but I'm not familiar with what they're doing right now.
I think last year they were matching up to 80%, but just because of COVID. But this year they don't know. Normally it's 50%. And the ads, they sell very quickly. Like you have to log into this portal. We personally haven't done it, but we also own a bread and breakfast too with our strawberry farm. So it might be. I'm trying to figure out, like, we've been operating for 6 years. Like, and I do everything. So
Yeah.
step it up and do something a little bit different, and maybe hire someone. So I might need to reach out to you and see what.
Okay.
Again, I don't know what you would charge. So.
Like I said, we'll work with you. So usually we talk with you and kind of find out what your needs are, and then any projects we do, we'll estimate up front so you kind of know what to expect and what you get for that. We're going to put our website in the chat here too, if that's okay. And then that way, if you want to learn a little bit more about the things that we do and some of the clients that we've worked with, just type here. That would be a good start too, to kind of go to our website. You can see a lot more examples of that. And then you can, reach out to us, send us an email, and let us know a little bit more about your business and what you're thinking of doing, and then we'll get in touch with you and we'll go from there.
Awesome. And the comment that I made about Facebook, this is what happened to me. We use Facebook for pick your own. I don't use it for the bed and breakfast because I feel like Facebook is communicating to my neighbor, at least in the area that I'm in West Virginia. I feel like my website is more connecting with a possible out-of-town guest.
Right.
But normally I can put something on Facebook and I get a lot of engagement with it. Now, in my defense, I haven't been posting regularly. because we're not in season. Usually I put something out there, but I just haven't lately.
Right.
But I did go on there and post a job about a month ago. We needed to have people come help us cut our runners. And normally when I put that out there, I get slammed with people wanting to help me. And I even have a waiting list. This year, I didn't have one person respond.
Huh.
And I thought, this hasn't reached anybody. Like, who did this ad go? Who did this even go to? I even paid for an ad. You know, I boosted it. I thought, wow, I don't want to be caught like this when my strawberries come in.
Right. And that's another thing when you go with something like a free service like Facebook, or even when you pay for it, you have limited control a lot of time. You know, you hope it's going to where the people that you want to reach, but it may or may not. And too, with Facebook, are they looking at their Facebook page? You know, there's just a lot of things with that you don't have any control over.
True. And it may have just been a bad moment when I posted it, or maybe nobody wanted any extra pocket money. I've heard people say nobody wants to work. I thought,
right. Well, you see,
I don't
see
really
help
know.
wanted you see help wanted signs up in almost all businesses anymore. So
Yeah,
it may
that's
just be
normally
the
not
timing.
Yeah. So maybe that's what I'm encountering. But anyway, I'm hoping by the spring, I need help in the spring. So if you know anybody that wants to cut runners, since you helped Eric run his stand, do you come out and work in the strawberry field? Is that something you would do?
We will keep that in mind.
All right. Well, thank you. That's kind of what I was wanting to share, and then also asking about the portal. So thank you.
Yeah,
and I will share
we
that.
appreciate you bringing that up, and we will check into that too, because that might help, especially a lot of the people just getting started might utilize that. So
great. And I'm trying really hard to get the link shared. So we'll see how my phone works. I'm doing this on my phone.
Oh, I just popped it in there, Angela. So it's over in the chat.
Awesome. Did you put the link that they have the orientation on Thursday?
I don't know. I just went to the main page. So if it's somewhere further down on the page, but if you find that one, you can share it too.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, are there any other questions? I know we're probably a little bit over time, so I want to try and be mindful of our presenters and, of course, guests who have taken the time out tonight. But any last thoughts or questions? Anybody have something they'd like to share? All right. Well, thanks so much again, Becky and Jeff, for joining us tonight. This has just been a wealth of knowledge. I'm sure you guys will be getting some follow-up emails and maybe phone calls. So thanks for sharing your wisdom with us. And Eric, thanks for giving us that anecdotal info and insight. I think, that just helps to see how this can work in real life and what it looks like when you go from not marketing to a lot of marketing and how it can really transform your business. So thanks for being on and sharing that tonight too. And thanks to everybody. Absolutely. Thanks to everybody else for joining. We're recording this, and so you can catch it if you missed part of it or joined us late. You can catch it on our YouTube channel later this week. So thanks again, and we hope to see everyone soon. Take care.
All right.
And Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Same to
Same you.
Thanks, guys.
All right.